In our last module, we have discussed that electrical system in vehicles are divided into generation, storage and distribution systems, starting system, ignition system, lighting system and accessories. And in our last lecture, we have learned about electrical generation system, or we can call it as a alternator, the link for which is given up here. Now in this module, we will be discussing about the electrical storage system, or we can call it as automotive batteries in a vehicle. We will discuss various types of automotive batteries, their construction, working cycles and relative advantages and disadvantages. Again, we will also be discussing various battery ratings, specification and charging of the batteries. So let's start with the lecture. So these are the major learning outcomes from this lecture. After the completion of lecture, you will be able to understand different types of batteries used in a vehicle. Again, you will be able to select battery for a given vehicle. You can test battery for specification and you will be able to diagnose the battery for defects. So, what is an automobile storage system or battery? So, an automotive battery or car battery is a rechargeable battery that is used in a motor vehicle to start the motor vehicle. Its main purpose is to provide an electric current to the electric powered starting motor, which in turn starts the chemically powered internal combustion engine that actually propels the vehicle. Once the engine is running, power for the car's electrical system is still supplied by the battery, with an alternator charging the battery as demands increase or decreases. The vehicle electrical system comprises many different modules. However, the automotive battery is the heart of the vehicle electrical system. It supplies the initial current to the starting and ignition system. When the generator or alternator is not charging, that is when engine is stopped, the battery supplies the current to the other electrical devices for all the time. Besides, it acts as a secondary source of electric current when the vehicle is not operating or the generator or alternator speed is not sufficient to meet the requirements. So what is the purpose of battery? Why a battery is used in the vehicle? So depends upon the state of engine or engine running status. Purpose of battery in automobile is different. So in the engine status can be of three types, that is engine is off, when engine is starting and engine is running. The purpose of the battery is different. So when engine is off, electricity from the battery is used to operate lightings, accessories or other electrical equipments or systems when the engine is not running. Second one is when engine is starting, so then electricity from battery is used to operate the starter motor and to provide current for the ignition system during engine cranking. Starting the car is battery's most important function. And third status is when engine is running. So electricity from the battery may be needed to supplement the charging system when the vehicle's electrical load requirement exceed the charging system ability to provide or to produce electricity. Both the battery and alternator supply electricity when demand is high. So there are different types of batteries which can be classified depends upon cells or depends upon the type of charging. So depends upon cell, it can be classified in two types, that is primary cell or battery or secondary cell battery. So batteries can either be a primary cell such as flashlight batteries, once used throw it away, or secondary cell such as car battery, when the charge is gone it can be recharged. So what is primary cell? Because the chemical reaction totally destroys one of the metals after a period of time, primary cells cannot be recharged. Small batteries such as flashlights and radio batteries are primary cells. Second is secondary cell. The metal plates and acid mixture change as the battery supplies voltage. As the battery drains, the metal plates become similar and the acid strength weakens. This process is called as discharging. By applying current to the battery in the reverse direction, the battery materials can be restored. Thus, recharging the battery is done. This process is called recharging. automotive lead acid batteries are secondary cell and can be recharged. So next type of batteries can be classified on the basis of type of charging. So first one is weight charge. Batteries can be produced as weight charged such as current automotive batteries are today, or they can be dry charged such as motorcycle battery, where an electrolyte solution is added and put into the services. So weight charged batteries, the lead acid battery is filled with electrolyte and charged when it is built. During storage, a slow chemical reaction will cause self discharge. Periodic charging is required. Most batteries sold today are weight charged. And again, second one is dry charged. The battery is built charged, washed and dried, sealed and shipped without electrolyte. It can be stored up for up to 18 months. When put into use, electrolyte and charging are required. Batteries of this type have a long shelf life. Motorcycle batteries are typically dry charged batteries. So these are the types of batteries, depends upon cells and depending upon the type of charging. So there are two main types of batteries, again, which we can classify it as lead acid batteries and nickel alkaline batteries. Now we will see each in one detail with their construction, working principle and relative advantages and disadvantages. So first type of battery is lead acid battery. A lead acid storage battery is an electrochemical device that produces voltage and delivers electric current. The battery is the primary source of electrical energy used in vehicles today. It's important to remember that a battery does not store electricity, but rather it stores a series of chemicals, and through a chemical process, electricity is produced. Basically, two different types of lead in acid mixture react to produce an electric pressure called voltage. This electrochemical reaction changes chemical energy to electrical energy and is the basis for all the automotive batteries. So what is the definition of lead acid battery? So we can define lead acid battery in a way that the battery which uses sponge lead and lead peroxide for the conversion of the chemical energy into electrical power. Such type of battery is called as lead acid battery. The lead acid battery is most commonly used in the power stations, substations, because it's higher cell voltage and lower cost. So let's go towards the construction of the lead acid battery. The various parts of the lead acid battery are shown here. The container and the plates are the main part of the lead acid battery. The container stores chemical energy which is converted into electrical energy by the help of the plates. So first part is container. So the container of the lead acid battery is made up of glass, lead lined wood, ebonite and the hard rubber of bituminous compound, ceramic materials or molded plastics are seated at the top to avoid the discharge of electrolyte. The bottom of the container there are 4 ribs. On 2 of them rest the positive plates and other supports the negative plates. The prism serves as the support for the plates and at the same time protect them from a short circuit. The material of which the battery containers are made should be resistant to sulfuric acid, should not deform or porous or contain impurities which damage the electrolyte. So second part is plates. The plate of the lead acid cell is of diverse design and they all consist some of form of grid which is made of lead and the active material. The grid is essential for conducting the electric current and for distributing the current equally on the active material. If the current is not uniformly distributed, then the active material will loosen and fall out. The grids are made up of an alloy of lead and antimony. They are usually made of with the transverse rib that crosses the plates at a right angle or diagonally. The grid for the positive and negative plates are the same of design, but the grids on the negative plates are made lighter because they are not as essential for the uniform conduction of the current. The plates of the battery are two types. There are the formed plates or planté plates and pasted or foray plates. So planté plates are used largely for stationary batteries, and these are heavier in weight and more costly than the pasted plates. But the plates are more durable and less able to lose active material by rapid charging and discharging. The plates has low capacity weight ratio. Foray plates is much suitable for manufacturing of negative plates rather than positive plates. The negative active material is quite tough and is undergoes a comparatively low change for charging and discharging. Next part of the lead acid battery is active material. The material in a cell which takes active participation in a chemical reaction, absorption or evaluation of electric energy during charging or discharging is called as the active material of the cell. The active element of the lead acid are lead peroxide, which forms the positive active materials. The lead peroxide or PbO2 are dark chocolate brown in color. Second active material should be sponge lead. It forms the negative active material and it is grey in color. And third one is dilute sulfuric acid, that is H2SO4. It is used as an electrolyte. It contains 31% of the sulfuric acid. The lead peroxide and sponge lead, which form the negative and positive active materials, have the little mechanical strength and therefore can be used alone. Next part of the lead acid battery is separators. The separators are thin sheets of non-conducting materials made up of chemically treated lead wood, porous rubbers or mats of glass fiber, and are placed between the positive and negative to insulate them from each other. Separators are grooved vertically on one side and are smooth on the other side. Next is battery terminals. A battery has two terminals, the positive and the negative. The positive terminal with a diameter of 17.5 mm at the top is slightly larger than the negative terminal, which is 16 mm in diameter. So this was the construction of lead acid battery. Now let's move toward the working principle of the lead acid battery. When the sulfuric acid dissolves, its molecules break up into the positive hydrogen ions, that is 2H plus, and sulfate negative ions, that is SO4 minus, and move freely. If the two electrodes are immersed in a solution and connected to DC supply, then the hydrogen ions being positively charged and move towards the electrodes and connected to the negative terminal of the supply. The SO4 ions being negatively charged move towards the electrodes connected to the positive terminals of the main supply, that is anode. Such hydrogen ion takes one electron from the cathode and each sulfates ions takes two negative ions from the anodes and react with the water form sulfuric acid and hydrogen acid. The oxygen which produced from the above equation react with the lead oxide and form lead peroxide, that is PbO2. Thus, during charging, the cathode remains as lead, but lead anode gets converted into lead peroxide, which is chocolate in color. If the DC source of supply is disconnected and if the voltmeter connects between the electrodes, it will show the potential difference between them. If the wire connects the electrodes, the current will flow from the positive plate to negative plate through external circuit, that is the cell is capable of supplying electric energy. So this slide shows the chemical action during discharging. When the cell is full discharged, the anode is of lead peroxide and cathode is of metallic sponge lead. When the electrodes are connected through a resistance, the cell discharge and electrons flow in direction opposite to that during charging. The hydrogen ions move to the anode and reaching the anode receives one electron from the anode and become hydrogen atom. The hydrogen atom comes in contact with a PbO2, so it attacks and forms lead sulfate, that is PbSO4 which is whitish in color, and water according to the chemical equation. The each sulfate ions move towards the cathode and reaching there gives up 2 electrons, and which becomes radical SO4. Attacks the metallic lead cathode and form lead sulfate which is whitish in color according to the chemical equation. So the chemical reaction for the lead acid battery discharging is shown here. So what happens when battery is charging? So for recharging, the anode and cathode are connected to the positive and the negative terminal of the DC supply mains. The molecules of the sulfuric acid breaks up into ions of 2H and SO4. The hydrogen ions, being positively charged, move towards the cathodes and receives 2 electrons from there and form a hydrogen atom. The hydrogen atom reacts with the lead sulfate cathode, forming lead and sulfuric acid according to the chemical equation. SO4 ions moves to the anode, gives up its 2 additional electrons, becomes radical SO4, react with the lead sulfate anode and forms lead peroxide and lead sulfuric acid according to the chemical reaction. So this equation shows the charging of the lead acid battery. So next type of battery is maintenance free batteries. So as the name is maintenance free batteries, means that there is no provision for the addition of the electrolyte to the cells since the battery is sealed. The maintenance free batteries contains cell plates made up of slightly different compounds, namely calcium, cadmium or strontium. The use of lead calcium alloy reduces gassing, the conversion of solution into hydrogen and oxygen, and also reduces the self discharge. The antimony used in the conventional battery is not used because it increases the breakdown of water into hydrogen and oxygen atoms. The use of calcium, cadmium or strontium reduces the amount of vaporization that takes place during normal operation. The battery is sealed except for a small vent so that the electrolyte and vapors cannot escape. Vapors only leave the case when the pressure inside the battery is greater than atmospheric pressure. An expansion or condensation chamber allows the water to condense and drain back into the cells. Because the water cannot escape from the battery, it is not necessary to add water to the battery on a periodic basis. Some maintenance free batteries have a built-in hydrometer that shows the state of charging. That is, when green dot is visible, it reads as battery is okay. When dark green dot is visible, it says that battery is less than 65% charge, and when light yellow dot is visible, then the battery should be replaced. Again, there are other type of batteries such as low maintenance battery. In a low maintenance battery, the caps are removable for testing and checking the electrolyte level. The grid construction contains about 3.5% of antimony. To decrease the distance and resistance of the path that current flows in the grid and to increase its strength, the horizontal and vertical grid bars do not intersect at the right angles. So what are the disadvantages of maintenance free batteries over the conventional batteries? So maintenance free batteries gives a larger reserves for electrolyte above the plates. It has increased resistance to overcharging. It has longer shelf life. It has the ability to ship with electrolyte installed, reducing the possibility of accident and injury, which we cannot do in the case of conventional batteries. And it has higher cold cranking amperes, that is CCA rating. So there are some drawbacks of maintenance free batteries over conventional batteries, such as possibility of grid growth when the battery is exposed to the high temperature, inability to withstand deep cycling, faster discharge by parasitic loads, and shorter life expansion. So next point is battery ratings. So battery can be specified by 4 points. Battery capacity ratings are established by Battery Council International, that is BCI, in association with the SAE, that is Students Association. Battery cell voltage depends upon the gas types of materials used in the construction of the battery. Current capacity depends upon various factors. That is, first one is the size of the plates. Larger the surface area of the plates, the more chemical action that can occur. This means a greater current in produce. Second factor is the weight of the positive and negative plates active material. Third factor is the weight of the sulfuric acid in electrolyte solution. The battery's current capacity rating is an indication of its ability to deliver cranking power to the starter motor and of its ability to provide reserve power to the electrical system. So we will see each battery rating in detail now. So first one is cold cranking ampere, that is CCA rating. So cold cranking ampere rating is the most common method of rating automotive battery. It is determined by the load in amperes a battery is able to deliver for 30 seconds at minus 18 degrees Celsius without terminal voltage falling below 7.2 volt for a 12 volt battery. The cold cranking rating is given in total amperage and is identified as 300 cca, 400 cca, 500 cca and so on. Next is cranking amps. The second battery rating is the cranking amps, that is CA rating, not to be confused with cold cranking or CCA, which is the battery's ability to deliver a cranking current at 30 degrees Celsius. This CA rating is the same test as in the CCA rating, except it is calculated at a higher temperature. A battery with a CA ratings of 800 may confuse a technician who may assume it is as a CCA rating number. To convert CA at 32 degrees Fahrenheit to CCA at 0 degree Fahrenheit, divide CA by 1.25. For example, a 650 CCA rated battery has the same current capacity as a 812 CA rated battery. This apparent marketing ploy may confuse the public into thinking they are purchasing a battery which is higher in capacity than it really is. Next battery rating is reserve capacity. The third battery rating, the reserve capacity rating, is the time in minutes a vehicle can be driven after the charging system fails. This is roughly equivalent to the conditions after the alternator fails while the vehicle is being driven at night with the headlights on. The battery alone must supply current to the headlights and the computer or ignition system. The assumed battery load is constant discharge during a 25 amperes. The reserve capacity rating is the length of the time a fully charged battery, that is at a temperature of 80 degree Fahrenheit or 26 degree Celsius, can supply 25 ampere before the terminal voltage falls below 10.5 volts. And the fourth battery rating is the ampere hour rating, expressed in ampere hours or AH, is the amount of current a fully charged battery can supply for 20 hours without having the terminal voltage fall below 10.5 volt. This test is made at a temperature of 18 degree Fahrenheit or 27 degree Celsius. If a battery can deliver 4 ampere under these conditions, it is an 80 ampere hour battery. That is, which can be calculated as 4 ampere into 20 hours is equal to 18 hour ampere. So let's move toward the battery charging. So charging the battery is the process of passing an electric current through the battery in an opposite direction that of during discharging. So there are 4 types of battery charging. First one is initial filling and charging. So when a new battery has been supplied dry, it is necessary to fill the cells with the electrolyte of a correct specific gravity. The electrolyte is prepared by mixing distilled water, concentrated sulfuric acid of 1.835 specific gravity. This mixing must be carried out in the lead lined tank or a suitable glass container. Steel or iron containers must not be used. The acid must be added slowly to the water while the mixture is stirred with a glass rod. Never add the water to the acid, as the severity of the resulting chemical reaction may have a dangerous results. The resulting mixture is filled through filling holes and the battery is allowed to stand for at least 6 hours. Charge at a constant current of 3.5 ampere until the voltage of the and the specific gravity readings show no increase over 5 successively hourly readings. Next charging is slow charging. Slow charging recharges the battery at a rate between 3 ampere and 15 ampere for a long period of time. Slow charging the battery has two advantages. First is it is the only way to restore the battery to a fully charged state, and it minimizes the chances of overcharging the battery. Slow charging the battery causes the lead sulfate on the plates to convert into lead peroxide and sponge lead throughout the thickness of the plate. Next is fast charging. Fast charging of the battery will bring the state of charge up in high enough to crank the engine. Since fast charging uses high current for a short period of time, it is unable to recharge the battery as effectively as slow charging. Fast charging of the battery converts only the lead sulfate on the outside of the plates to lead peroxide. The conversion does not go throughout the plates. Next one is trickle charging. When batteries are left in a storage for longer period of time, they are subjected to self-discharge. During trickle charging, a continuous charging at very low charging rate of about 5% of the normal charging is employed for keeping the battery in a proper condition. Trickle charging is employed on batteries used for display purpose and on vehicles during very light running. However, continuous trickle charging should not be used, and it is recommended that only during daytime the battery should be connected to trickle charge, while during night it should be not disconnected. So this was all about the types of different types of batteries, their purposes and construction, and advantages and disadvantages. In next lecture we will see that how the batteries are tested and what are the possible damages to the batteries or defects in the batteries, and how can we diagnose it and how can we correct it. Thank you.